don't know me, my name is Kendra and I'm going to be your CTL or Content Teacher Lead for World History this year. This is the Unit 1 preview video where I'm just going to go over the highlights of the unit plan, explain my thought process behind certain aspects, and just go over it in general. I would definitely recommend taking a look at the scope and sequence for Unit 1 and reading over the actual unit plan before watching this. If you have a paper copy, it might be helpful to follow along as we go through it all. Okay, it's so important to start this school year out well, and this unit is a perfect one to do that. It really gets the students excited about history, and we definitely don't want to be these type of teachers who put our kids to sleep. So this whole unit, I try to really focus on engagement and skills. It's also a really fun unit to teach because the students don't know much about these ancient civilizations. Egypt tends to be pretty familiar, but Mesopotamia and the Indus River Valley are often new to them, so they can get really into it. I would focus on making time for frequent discussions. Then students are interested and they know from the beginning that this will not be a sit and get type class. I always remind them that history is not a study of the past, but a study of the interpretation of the past. And they get to play the role of historian all year. So we start that out definitely right away in Unit 1. Okay, this is getting into the actual unit plan. This is just the first page. It goes over here, how many class periods, unit title, and then right over here is our global context. And I did choose scientific and technical innovation for this unit. I did this so that scholars can start to see this connection between technology and the growth of civilizations really early in the year. This is a theme that continues throughout the entire course, so I also tied the statement of inquiry to that concept. With each of these major river valley civilizations, scholars will start to see how progress led to established societies and take the time to explore with them this idea that buzzwords such as technology, progress, innovation aren't always such good things. And that's why the statement of inquiry is debatable, even if scholars at first don't think that it is. Okay, if you go to this is on the bottom of page 1 of the unit plan. These are the inquiry questions. They go by factual, conceptual, and debatable. I'm not going to read these out loud to you. You can read them on your own, but I really wanted to focus on 3 and 4 here in the debatable questions. These really get to the heart of the unit, and bringing up these questions as their closure is a really good idea. It allows scholars to internalize that day's lesson, connect it to the statement of inquiry. It also really gets to the heart of critical thinking and forces them to connect content to larger issues, whether that be like current events, things going on in their own lives, things like that. Scholars also just love to debate, so bringing these up a lot tend to get them excited and invested in the content. I actually put up a poster of the debatable questions. That's twofold. One reason's just classroom management. If a student finishes early, they know they're expected to go over to the debatable questions and answer it on a Post-it note. But it also helps them learn how to start talking about these things, but also writing them using academic language, things like that. Okay, the next section of the unit plan you'll see is knowledge and skills. This looks like a really long, kind of complicated section, but it really just lists the TEKS, main concepts for the unit, and then skills to focus on. Again, I won't make you listen to me read them aloud to you, but I wanted to take some time to hone in on these humanities-specific skills that I listed. It's just mental mapping, interpreting maps, using context clues to use that academic vocabulary in both speaking and writing, and then causation, correlation, and annotating texts. Since this unit is so short and the content is not heavily tested on either the AP or CA4, this is a perfect time to really focus on these skills from the very, very beginning. Note-taking, annotating texts, and using the academic vocabulary will serve them well in every class and beyond high school. So just starting the year off with those expectations and focusing on these is definitely time well spent. Okay, the main assessment for this unit is actually an essay. Since it is such a short unit, I didn't do a full-fledged IB project, but every unit from here on out will have a project in that GRASPS framework. But this one is just an essay and a multiple choice test. There's both an AP and non-AP version uploaded to Blackboard. For the actual prompt, I did compare and contrast two of the following river valley civilizations. I said be sure to follow the AP rubric and remember to include a minimum of 4 pieces of evidence per body paragraph. Just a quick note about the AP rubric. The official new one will not be released until August 1st. Right when that's released, I'll upload it to Blackboard for you guys. But just know to kind of be watching for that. This is the first essay scholars will write in your class, so I like to take the time to really prepare them and give them good feedback after they write it. I actually have my scholars do peer editing on both their outlines and the actual essay, in addition to giving them my own feedback. Creating this safe kind of collaborative space from the start of the year is really important. And it saves you time. If scholars can get really good at peer editing, then you can kind of trust that for more writing practice throughout the course of the year. If anyone's interested in my peer editing format, you can reach out to me and I'll upload that to Blackboard or explain it to you via email, anything like that. If you're not teaching an AP course, you can feel free to use MYP rubrics to grade this essay. Again, if that's something you need help with, just reach out to me and I can help you edit them, pick your strands, that kind of thing. You'll notice under the assessment, I did these examples and non-examples of each component of the rubric. You can take some time to read these later. It's really just for your reference. I tried to include the rationale for why this would be an example and this would be a non-example. Like I said, it's for your reference, but it also might be good to share with your scholars if they're struggling with why they didn't receive a thesis point or why their evidence wasn't considered valid. Again, this is something I'll try to do on each of the unit plans so you can see specifics of what you should be looking for. Okay, this starts the stage 3 of the unit plan. It goes through the approaches to learning, or ATLs, learning experiences for each lesson, differentiation for each lesson, the formative assessments for each lesson, and then these real-world connections. I made sure to do each of these 3 boxes by day, just to kind of be a little bit more clear and give you some real, tangible ideas for what to use. Once you read all these over, just let me know if there's anything that's unclear or if you need any further resources. Most of these are uploaded to Blackboard, the resources you'll need. So I'll make sure to show you where to find those and how to navigate that. When I first started teaching, I didn't utilize this section of the unit plan as often as I should have. And now I realize how valuable it is to visit it often throughout the unit and kind of making sure I'm hitting these ATLs and looking for ways to weave in these real-world connections. I do think that is one of the most fun parts of teaching our course, is how applicable it is to the real world. So just taking the time to intentionally ensure you're doing that, I think is really important. Okay, like I just kind of said, the resources page on Blackboard has a ton of stuff for you. It has a PDF copy of the AMSCO book that I reference a lot in the exit tickets. It has readings for most lessons, so make sure you take a look on that. And here is where to get to it. So if you go to Resource Bank, most things I put in this content-based resource section. We'll go over specifically on Collab Day, kind of how to find that and navigate it. But if you take some time to look at it now, just reach out if there's anything you can't find. All right, and then the rest of the unit plan is really just the day-by-day lessons. It starts here. I always note and highlight if there's an AML, those annotated model lessons, or readings, the guided reading like a historian, primary sources associated with that lesson, so look for that. This is the objective, your key points, kind of those really key meaty things that you need to make sure you get to, and then your exit ticket or your assessment will be in that 3rd box. So the first day is the Neolithic Revolution. The assessment for this lesson is to get them to start writing about history immediately. It kind of sets the precedent for the class that they will have a lot of writing, but also gives you some data to kind of start seeing where they're at and where they need to be, that kind of thing. The Jared Diamond article uploaded with this AML should definitely be used. It's really interesting, and it also lets the scholars start to make that connection implied in the statement of inquiry that innovation is not always such a positive thing. They tend to be pretty shocked by that when they read it. Okay, days 2 and 3 are really the big content-heavy lessons. of this unit. Day 2 is Mesopotamia and Ancient Egypt. I did 2 guided readings for that day, 1 on each civilization. And then day 3 is the Indus River Valley and Ancient China. It's super easy to get caught up in the details of these 4 civilizations. I mean, really, we could take an entire class on these 4. So just remember right away at the beginning of the year, this is a survey course of world history. So just focus on the highlights and work hard on pushing those skills. There'll be things the scholars don't know, and that's completely fine. It's just really getting those key points across and making sure they remember those. Comparison is an important skill in both AP and IP. So both of these lessons kind of drive that skill, and just make sure you keep that in the back of your head the whole time you're teaching them. And you'll see over here the exit tickets are kind of scaffolded. Day 2, they just write a thesis statement using that comparison skill, but by day 3, they're supposed to be able to write an entire paragraph using that comparison skill, but bringing in evidence, that kind of thing. This, of course, is also getting them ready for that assessment on their essay. The final 2 days of the unit are used for review, essay preparation, and then day 5 is the test itself. It may seem a little odd in only a 5-day unit to spend an entire day on review, but I do think it's really important at this stage in the year to set scholars up for success on that first essay. So I think it's a very valuable use of time. On the review day, I tend to just kind of do content like a game for maybe 30 minutes and then really just push that essay the rest of the 60 minutes for the class. If they feel confident going into the test, they'll tend to perform better. And like I said, you can use that time later to refine their writing skills instead of reteaching the entire essay format. I'll always lead them through writing a thesis statement, peer feedback, write an outline, peer feedback, share the rubrics with them, just so they feel really comfortable for that essay on day 5. Okay, that's really it for Unit 1. I know it's super fast, but it really is the perfect time to really lay those foundations for a really successful year. If you have any questions at all, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's part of my role as CTL, and I'm always here to help. You can email me, text, call, whichever you prefer. I'll do my best to answer your questions or find someone who can. Have a lot of fun with this unit, and I will see you all soon. Thanks so much.